In this interview, we will address a number of financial topics. Information provided in this interview is provided for general information only. It is not intended to provide tax, legal, or investment advice, or to recommend any particular financial instruments, investments, or products. This information should not be used as the basis for making a decision to purchase or sell any investment. Always seek advice from your financial advisor with regard to your investment decisions and your attorney and accountant with regard to legal and tax questions.
On September 13, 2011, Louisville-based commentator John Ramsey hosted an interview with the author and creator of the WorryFree Retirement, Tony Walker. The purpose of this interview is to provide a better understanding of Tony's unique approach in planning for the future and ways to better safeguard your money. We now join the interview in progress.
Tony, as you know, I always look forward to our talks. And I was thinking, I think in the past 5 years we've had maybe 3 of these interviews. And I think the time is really appropriate to talk again, because with all this financial craziness out there, it's time for you and I to chat. So first of all, I want to thank you. It's good to see you, and thanks for sharing your time with us.
Well, John, I've been looking forward to it as well. You know, every time we talk, it gives me an opportunity to share with the viewers what's going on in the financial world, and especially somebody like myself that's out in the financial trenches. So I'm looking forward to our interview today.
Well, Tony, before we get into the meat of what we're going to talk about here, you and I were talking about the fact that it's almost 10 years to the day, probably one of the most horrific events in the history of our country, if not the most horrific event, took place, and that being 9/11. Now, I think that affected all of us emotionally, but it also affected your philosophy and your approach in your business. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, you know, up until 9/11, I'd almost done this 18 years, and I'd done a lot of different things. I'd done real estate, I'd done annuities, life insurance, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and was heavily involved, quite frankly, in the market and managing people's money, especially during the 90s. You remember how good those days were, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you really could. You could throw a dart at a dartboard and pick those stocks. But when they flew into those buildings, it helped me to understand that I was in charge of safeguarding people's money, because I was beginning to work with more and more people who were approaching retirement. And I think what happened with 9/11, it helped me understand that that really is Wall Street, the stock market. It really is a world of risk and uncertainty, and I pretty much made a decision to get out of that world, John.
I want to talk a little bit more about that, because I understand where you're coming from. You want to walk away from the risk and the uncertainty. However, my question is this. You know, you've got clients who depend on you. If you're not selling the stock market, what kind of recommendations do you make to your clients?
And that was interesting, because I kind of went back to my roots of the insurance world. You know, the insurance world over the years has proved to be a very valuable asset. It's proved to be very predictable, very safe. So I started focusing more, although I still dabble some in the stock market, not very much now, John, but I pretty much focused on guaranteed insurance contracts. And those have proved to be very, very beneficial, very, very predictable, and in most cases, guaranteed. And I'm finding a lot of people like that.
I think I've done my homework, because when you say guaranteed contracts, are you talking about annuities that are coming from an insurance company?
Yeah, mainly annuities, and there's several varieties. You know, there's variable annuities, which we do not do. Variable annuities are still tied to the stock market, see? Variable annuities have a lot of fees and things like that. So I'm mainly focused on fixed annuities, immediate annuities, something called fixed indexed annuities. I do a lot of dividend participating whole life. And so those are the main products we use. And the difference is we put them in our process, the WorryFree Retirement process, so that the consumers or the potential clients for our offices, they know how to use those products properly, how to safeguard their money, and more importantly, how to use and enjoy their money.
You know, before you and I started talking, when I thought annuities, I always thought about fees, commissions, to where there wasn't anything left after you died, and your family had to wrestle with all of that. But after going to the Tony Walker School of Finance, when you and I chat a little bit, you've really schooled me on annuities. If you would, tell our viewers and folks who may be watching the show a little bit more about annuities and why you believe in them in such a strong way.
Well, annuities have been around for years and years and years. They've been proven. And really what you're doing with an annuity, you're trading dollars with an insurance company for a contract that guarantees you something. And in most cases, why annuities are becoming so popular, John, they guarantee you an income that you can never outlive. And that's one of the greatest fears of retirees now, is outliving their money. I mean, let's face it, that's a true legitimate fear. And with the stock market, the roller coaster out of the stock market and all that, to be able to place somebody's money in a contract that will last as long as they live, that's great. And also, too, a lot of these newer annuities, these hybrid annuities that we specialize in, John, what a lot of people don't realize, the old annuities, some of those did go away at death. People would be left with nothing, the beneficiaries. Most of the annuities, if you have the proper game plan, if you have the proper expertise setting these up, your family will still be beneficial to the annuities. They would still be the beneficiaries and receive an income or a lump sum. So that's one of the biggest misconceptions. Well, my family will be left high and dry when I die, and in most cases that's not the case.
What about the folks who are watching television, some of these other financial shows, and they're seeing the flip side of what you're saying? They're seeing a different kind of approach. They're seeing a different kind of philosophy. And these folks are saying, stock market, stick with it, hang in there. Well, what do you say to those people who have been watching those type of television shows? What's your answer to that?
Well, you know, I kind of think back to my granddad, and in fact, in my book, The WorryFree Retirement, I feature my granddad in the third chapter, which says, Say Goodbye to Granddad's Retirement. And I remind people, my granddad had a very worry-free retirement and never owned a stock. So I started researching all this. You know, I kind of wondered, how did Wall Street ever get onto Main Street in such a big way, which it has? And if you go back in time, Wall Street was never on Main Street. My granddad would have never thought of buying a stock. So I take the opposite approach. I'm assuming that a lot of people are like my granddad deep down. In other words, they don't want to monkey with the stock market. They work hard for their money. They don't want to risk it. They don't like all the uncertainty. They're getting tired of paying Wall Street a bunch of money and sometimes them not making anything. So my thoughts are, if we could accomplish your goals without putting all this money at risk, why do it? See what I'm saying? And we figured out how to do that. And annuities, in many cases, for most people, especially those who I call savers, who are like my granddad, annuities fit the bill. They do that very nicely, and we don't have to take all of that risk.
If you don't mind, Tony, I'm going to take the consumer perspective because I'm a consumer. So help me out a little bit. From day one, I've always been taught that you need the stock market. If you want to have a great retirement, if you want to have a successful retirement, you're going to have to depend on the stock market. Why do you feel differently than that?
Well, I've tried to understand Wall Street's approach to money. And it's interesting, Wall Street keeps telling people you got to have boatloads of money, large amounts of money. And, you know, in some cases that'd be great if everybody had millions of dollars. But the majority of people I meet, John, they don't have a lot of money. They've done good, they've saved money, and they have an adequate amount of money, in my opinion. But the problem is Wall Street keeps discouraging them by saying you don't have enough. And so I said, where's their approach coming from? Where is their philosophy? And what I did, if you don't mind, I'm going to show you kind of a graphic of how Wall Street approaches money versus our unique approach, the WorryFree Retirement. So if you would, let's kind of take a look at this, okay?
Would love that.
Okay, first of all, Wall Street in the first phase of life, which everybody should do this, says that you should save money. And that's very appropriate. I can understand that. We encourage people, young people, the first half of life, to save as much as you can. Here's where it gets a little tricky. I call this halftime. It's that period of time between approximately 55, 65, something like that. Maybe the kids are out of the household, you feel like you got a little breathing room. And what happens is, just as people get kind of excited about thinking about retirement, Wall Street keeps saying, save more. Well, you know, I meet a lot of these people, and they're trying to figure out how they're ever going to retire. Well, they're being told to save more. Again, very discouraging. And then we look at the market, right? Boy, if you're in the market during those periods of time, you get real discouraged. But then, the point in time when you get past that, we call that the second half, 65, 70 years of age. That, to me, is the point in time what I've seen John in my own practice. And again, I've worked with thousands of people. Most people get to a point in life where they really don't spend as much money during that period of time. That makes sense, doesn't it?
Sure.
You're traveling less. But you know what Wall Street keeps saying? Keep saving. Now, here's the difference. Let's take a look at the difference between their approach and the worry-free retirement approach, which is born out of real-world experience of people who just simply want to use their money and quit worrying about it. Okay. Same thing. First half of life, we're encouraging people to save. In fact, probably people aren't saving enough, quite frankly. You have to save money when you're in those young years as best you can. But here's where it gets different. Notice as you get into what we call halftime again, 55, 60, 65, what we're saying is set up a game plan to start using and enjoying the money now. I mean, doesn't that make sense to you? I mean, when you can use it, enjoy it?
I like the sound enjoyment. I like the word enjoyment. I like the thoughts there. Yes, I like the way you're thinking.
And I've met a lot of people, and I'm sure you've known people. I've had several clients die this year, and many of those people died, guess what age they were?
I'm guessing 65 or less.
That's right. So you work all your life, and you slave away, and you retire at 65, and that could happen. Let's hope it doesn't, but it could. So I'm all about setting up a game plan to use and enjoy it. And then to me, the second half of life, here's the biggie. Relax. So what? Now this is going to sound really contrarian, John. So what if your money is gradually going down during that period of time? Think about that. Because if you don't spend it all, or you don't give it away to your kids, I'm talking about in your older years, who do you think is going to be standing in line to take it away from you anyway?
Uncle Sam?
Uncle Sam, the nursing home.
Sure.
Some relatives you didn't care for anyway that are standing around the coffin wondering what you're going to leave them through the will. So I try to change people's perspective on money. Quit listening to Wall Street. You got to understand, they're in the world of fees. That's how they make money. I mean, if they have $1 million or $100,000 of your money, well, of course they don't want you taking it away. That affects them, right?
Well, this is what I love about the worry-free retirement, is words like enjoy your money, don't worry, relax. That's what retirement's supposed to be about, is about being worry-free, right?
Right, but if you have other people are setting unrealistic expectations with your money and you're not meeting their expectations,
stress.
And you think they're the experts, right? Well, you're going to feel worried. You're going to feel like you're a failure.
Tony, that's a powerful picture, and I like the sound of that because that's what it's about. You save when you're young and you relax when you're ready to retire.
That's right. That's what it's all about.
You're listening to an interview with the author and creator of the Worry-Free Retirement, Tony Walker. To schedule a no-obligation appointment with Tony, simply call toll-free 1-877-499-9255 or log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Remember, there's never a fee or obligation to meet with Tony. We now rejoin our interview in progress.
Tony, over the years, I've heard you talk a lot about the roller coaster ride of the stock market. Well, from my experience, my roller coaster is going straight downhill. I mean, I hear about these 10 and 12% returns. I'm not experiencing that. If I look at my 401k, it's dismal at best. So tell me a little bit about the state of the roller coaster.
Dalbar is an independent research firm, and I want you to take a look at some of these numbers, John, I'm going to show you in the audience here. Over the past 20 years, independently, they examined the investment returns of investors, not necessarily how Wall Street did, how Joe Lunchbox, you and I, how we did.
Me.
You. And let's look at this. So John, as we can see, over the last 20 years, the S&P 500, that's the barometer most people use to measure the stock market, quite frankly, has done just over 9%. And that's probably where people get these numbers. But you would have had to have been in it 20 years ago from the time of this study to get it. You with me?
So that's skewed a little bit.
Yeah, it's very skewed. Nobody really does it that way.
Sure.
So what Dalbar did is the average investor, they looked at their returns. Forget the S&P, how's the average investor doing? And as we can see from this, John, they did just over 3.5% after that roller coaster ride.
Ouch.
Ouch. And then, everybody else tells you to diversify, allocate. I used to give that mantra all the time in the 90s. You got to be diversified. It even gets worse for the poor old fellow out there who's trying to diversify in the stock market. His or her return is under 3% for that same 20-year period.
So Tony, I'm getting sick on this roller coaster ride. Help me out. I want to get off. What ride should I jump on? What is a ride that is safe and is going to guarantee me a worry-free retirement?
And I think that's just it. You've got to decide on your own what you can stomach. And that's why I like to use the roller coaster rides. All I can say is, John, for me personally, as I've gotten older, literally, it's hard for me to stomach roller coasters. But it doesn't mean I can't go to Disney World, which I do with my wife a lot, quite frankly, and still enjoy it. Just because there's roller coaster rides at Disney World and I see all these young kids screaming and having fun, you know what? I'm past that point now. But I can still enjoy the ride as I define it. And I think that's what consumers have to do with money. They've got to understand that there are certain products now that they're past that. Just move on. And we've been able to still get nice 3 and 4 and 5% returns. We're not making anybody rich, but they're not getting sick over it either. They've been consistent and nice guaranteed returns.
Tony, I understand about the ebbs and flows, and I don't think there's any of us who like the words risk, who like the words uncertainty, but still, it's still front and center. I see Wall Street talking all the time about stocks. Someone's making money. How does this work?
Back in the 60s, Wall Street's main compensation, if you will, for doing work for people was primarily commissions. Commissions is a bad word. See, I like commissions. I work on a commission basis. I don't mind paying people for good work for commissions. But what they figured out is you got to work hard. You've got to work and see a lot of people and do a lot of transactions to get commissions. It is hard work, John. It might be easier, wouldn't it, if you and I had a business model and if we could just gather the assets like a little squirrel gathers nuts and we could get a cut off of those assets regardless of what happens.
That'd be nice.
Yeah. In other words, if the market goes down or goes up, it's bad news possibly for the consumer, but if I'm the one in charge of it and I still get a fee no matter what, pretty good deal. So what they've realized is it's a lot more fees and a lot more money for Wall Street. That's why they keep pushing the stock market. And that's why you don't hear them say much about fixed annuities and dividend participating whole life, a lot of the products I like, because they're one-time commission products. They don't have all these recurring fees built in. In fact, it's funny, I'll have a follow-up meeting with somebody, one of my clients, and they'll say, Tony, what do I owe you? They're getting ready to get their checkbook out. They're amazed that they've never written Tony Walker Financial a check. That's because I don't like charging fees, and I don't do it. I work strictly on a commission basis. And my clients like that because they don't pay me, we let other companies pay me.
I like the sound of that, Tony, and something else I like because I've come to know you is the fact there's no question about your integrity, your work ethic, your honesty. We can talk about that. How can someone get to know Tony Walker and not have to pay him a check? How's that work? And I know you have these seminars, and they're absolutely free as well, right?
Yeah, I think the workshops over the years have really evolved, and I've tried to learn what people want. I try as best I can to put myself in the consumer's shoes. I got away from the dinner seminars, and I told my staff several years ago, I said, we are going to offer educational workshops. No dinner, no nothing. We want to talk to people who are serious about learning about money, and I'm going to teach them about money. So these workshops have become very popular, John, because people know they can come. If they want to come a second time, that's fine. We have various topics. They can go to TonyWalkerFinancial.com, look at the workshops that are coming up. They're all geared towards retirement, annuities, things that we think retirees and especially savers would want to know about. We deal with tax issues, how to get those tax-infested IRAs into your pockets instead of the government, how to deal with a lot of the things that a lot of people have right now, insurance policies, annuities, wills, trusts, things they have questions on. They can come to a venue with somebody like me with this type of experience and ask questions without feeling obligated to buy anything. Now, after the workshops, we give people an opportunity to meet, and they want to do that. I can meet with them up here in the Louisville, Kentucky area, but they meet with me personally. There's no cost or obligation, and there is absolutely no fee to sit down and talk about your situation.
Looking for an opportunity to learn more about Tony's unique take on money? Consider attending one of Tony's free educational workshops. For the times and locations of upcoming workshops, simply call Tony's office toll-free at 1-877-499-WALK. Or better yet, register online by logging on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. We now return to our interview in progress.
What's a typical client?
Pretty much we like to kid anybody that can still fog a mirror and who has money.
Okay, you're going to have to get a little bit more specific in that. Help me out, Tony. What is your average client like? You've helped thousands of people.
Yeah, well, and I think that's a misconception. People think, well, they've seen me on TV or whatever, and here they are watching this. Well, a lot of people are surprised that I even take phone calls in the office. Well, that's the purpose of this, is to help as many people as I can worry less about money. That is our mission statement. So what we don't want to do is people think, well, I've only got $10,000 or $15,000. He's only working with millionaires. That is not the case at all, John. So what I would say is anybody that has money at all, and that money could be money that's simply sitting in a CD, savings account, a current annuity that they want me to review. Maybe they've received an inheritance. They're getting ready to retire and have a 401k they need something to do. They've got an old IRA they want me to look at. They've sold a business. They've sold some real estate.
Tony, do you have to be a certain age or anything?
Our ideal prospect for working with people is people at or near retirement, generally over the age of 50, 55, who are getting at that point in life where they're tired of the roller coaster ride. They want to safeguard their money, and more than likely they want somebody they can meet with face-to-face like myself, who has experience and has been around the block a few times, that can coach them in a way that can take them into retirement so they can enjoy their money.
Now, Tony, I know you're a nice guy, and I know you enjoy giving free seminars and helping people attain a worry-free retirement. My question is this: you're successful now. Why keep doing this? Why keep free this? Don't write me a check that. How do you survive?
It's not about the money for me. It is truly about helping people worry less about money, and that drives me back to my faith. In fact, what I've learned over doing this for nearly 3 decades, John, I've tried to create a 3-pronged approach, not only for my clients to think about, but for me. That 3-pronged approach is man, money, and God. Man goes back to my study of psychology. I've got a degree in psychology. I think most of what we do can usually be explained. I mean, a lot of money is human behavior. If you look at the stock market right now, a lot of it is emotion and human behavior. So I think a good advisor needs to understand people emotionally. Everybody's come up differently. There's reasons that people are where they are financially. There's no reason for me to ever look down on somebody because maybe they don't have a lot of money. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
They are where they are right now, and people need encouragement. I really believe that. Then you have money, economics, the study of money. I've studied under some of the best in the country, and I've put a lot of time in it. I have a lot of credentials. I owe it to my client to understand how money really works. I'm not just shooting from the hip. I haven't got some insurance company or big Wall Street type telling me what I got to tell people. I'm independent. I'm going to shoot straight with them based on what I've learned over the years. But finally, and most importantly, is God. You know, at some point, I've got to be accountable to someone. And as much as I like you, it can't be you. It's not even my clients. I have to be accountable to my Maker. And my faith, all right, that He's going to take care of me is my most valuable possession. It's more important than money from you. It's more important than writing the next annuity. All that stuff pales in comparison to what I believe and my abilities to help people worry less about money. I think that's why I'm here.
You know what's great, Tony, is Coach Patino said this to me once. He said, don't chase money, chase excellence, and then money will come along. And I think that's true in your case. You're excellent at what you do, and I think the fact that you're financially sound, well, there's a reason for that, because you're good at what you do and people seek your advice. Thank you for all you do, really.
Oh, you're more than welcome, John. You know, when I first wrote the book, The WorryFree Retirement, you know, we got a copy of it here. It wasn't selling very good. And it was actually, this book, I started working on this in about '02. And I called it Perfecting Your Walk. And I guess it's kind of like what Coach Patino says. My point is in life, why wouldn't you pursue excellence? Why wouldn't you pursue perfection? I mean, why settle for mediocrity? So the point is, I think everybody deep down wants that. Everybody wants to make progress in life. The great writer Spurgeon said, perfection is the standard, direction is the key. So what I'm trying to do with my clients is point them in a better direction so they feel like they're making progress, and you can't make progress if your accounts are going down. See the psychology of that? Sure. I want people to feel more confident about their future, not less confidence. So that's why we build guarantees and more predictability. We try to remove all these variables so that my clients can feel better about their money and where they're going, and therefore they will worry less about money with our process.
You're listening to an interview with the author and creator of the WorryFree Retirement, Tony Walker. To schedule a no-obligation appointment with Tony, simply call toll-free 1-877-499-9255 or log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Remember, there's never a fee or obligation to meet with Tony. We now rejoin our interview in progress.
Tony, I think a lot of people are like myself in that safety nowadays is really important. Give me an analogy where I can wrap my arms around financial safety.
And I think here in the Louisville, Kentucky area, you know, the date of this tape as we're doing this on September 13th, we're having a lot of problems apparently with the Sherman-Minton Bridge.
Bridge over troubled waters, yes.
Bridge over. And I think about that. How many times did you drive over that bridge and even know there was potentially a problem?
Never.
Do you think anybody really did?
Probably not.
Okay. And if nobody pointed out that the Sherman-Minton Bridge could go tumbling into the Ohio River, do you think there'd be a problem with that?
No. Well, later.
Later, yeah.
So and that's what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah, if I knew, and so as upset as I know people are with the government officials, I don't think anybody wants to be on that Sherman-Minton Bridge if that thing happened to collapse. The problem with money, the problem with assets and all these investment statements, you're looking at them, and it's like looking at a distance at the Sherman-Minton Bridge. It looks fine to you, but you're wondering why your 401k is crashing down. The problem is it's never had any safety features put on it. It's never been safeguarded. It'd be almost like, well, let's rebuild the Sherman-Minton Bridge. Let's see if we could figure out how to rebuild it. And we're trying to cut costs, by the way, John, so let's just leave off the guardrails. Can you imagine driving across the Sherman-Minton Bridge without guardrails? Would you do it?
No.
Okay, but have you ever had to use the guardrails?
No.
No.
But I still wouldn't want it without them.
That's right. Because something could happen. So I think people who are risk-averse people, deep down, I think it's the majority of the population. I think majority of people want safety. They want to be prudent. If there is a problem in somebody's finances, if there's cracks in the bridge, they want somebody to point it out and shoot straight with them and get it fixed. The reason I share all this, John, there are a lot of people that are in the market now, and I know who they are. They talk to me all the time. They come to my workshops, and for whatever reason, they don't want to get off the bridge. And what I would say is there is a better bridge for you. It has guardrails. It is safe. It's been checked out. And I want to be the one to show you that bridge. Just give me an opportunity. That's all I'm asking for.
And get off the bridge you're on before it's too late.
Yes. And the problem is the Sherman-Minton Bridge in that example. If you know there's a problem and keep driving across it and nobody fixes it and it comes crashing down, now you have nobody else to blame but yourself.
Okay, Tony, let's talk a little bit about my Sherman-Minton Bridge. In particular, specifically, my 401k. Seems like now it's a 201k, and you said it's going to be taxed. In fact, I think you used the term tax tumor. Let's talk about that. What should I do now? How do I get off my bridge?
See, it's the same thing. I have people meet with me, John, and some of them have done very well. I'm proud of them. You know, they've got $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 in a 401k. And back to that bridge analogy, though, it's got cracks in it. Now, they may have even moved it out of the market and have it in government bonds or annuities, and they think it's safe. But we still got the toll to pay. The government's sitting there, and when you cross that bridge, cross the bridge from moving to the first half to the second half of life, and you want to take your money out and use it and enjoy it, you think they're talking about putting a toll, Sherman-Minton, there's already a toll on your 401k, buddy, and they're going to want anywhere from 20 to 40% of it when you cross the bridge. So my point to people is the same thing. If I knew of a way to try to reduce that toll now and set a plan in motion rather than just waiting and crossing the bridge and being surprised, would you want to know about it?
Yes, I would.
And that's what we do for people. The problem is people think there's some magic bullet and I can just tell them on air. That's why it takes a planner that's experienced and looking at the whole ball of wax. That's why I want to see your tax return. I want to know about your family. I want to know issues that could be coming up in the future. I want to know about other assets besides the 401k. So I would tell anybody, if they've got a 401k or IRA and their advisor is not asking them those kind of questions and not dealing now with the tax tumor to come, please give us a call and talk to me and get a second opinion on this thing, because it could erode your wealth in a heartbeat if you don't deal with these taxes now.
Looking for an opportunity to learn more about Tony's unique take on money? Consider attending one of Tony's free educational workshops. For the times and locations of upcoming workshops, simply call Tony's office toll-free at 1-877-499-WALK. Or better yet, register online by logging on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. We now return to our interview in progress.
Once again, Tony, I've enjoyed our conversation. I love hearing more about your approach. Promise me, let's do it again.
We'll do it. Thanks, John.
Thank you for joining us. You've been listening to retirement specialist Tony Walker. We trust that the information has been helpful and that you have a better understanding of what makes a retirement specialist truly a specialist. Remember, when it comes to you and your money, you only get one shot to do it right. Tony specializes in working one-on-one with people in Kentucky and southern Indiana. And best of all, there's no cost or obligation to visit with Tony. Simply log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com or call toll-free 1-877-499-WALK. That's TonyWalkerFinancial.com or toll-free 1-877-499-WALK.
Stock market's really a gamble. I mean, it's no different than going to a casino.
My fund particularly kept going down, down, down.
When you work as hard as you have worked to save the amount of money that you have for your retirement, you do want to be able to start enjoying a little bit of that money, not to totally wipe out everything that you've saved.
If you listen to all the people that are involved with those mutual funds, they all tell you, oh, don't worry about it, leave it there, it'll be okay. Of course, it's not their money.
At our age, we just don't want to be on the roller coaster of the stock market anymore.